After Tuesday's action at the College World Series, the field has been cut down to 4 teams, as we unfortunately had to see 2 teams pack their bags on Tuesday afternoon, both via shutouts. West Virginia shuts out Troy by a score of 12-0, and then Georgia and Texas get a rematch. This one much closer. Georgia winning it by a score of 2-0. Troy was definitely your fun Cinderella story in Omaha, but as most Cinderella stories do in college baseball, they come to an end at some point. And today for Troy, it just seemed like they ran out of steam. This was an offense that had been surging. It was the offense that got it done against Ole Miss to secure their first ever win in Omaha. But here against West Virginia, the bats were just unfortunately nowhere to be found. You get a solid start from junior right-hander Dawson Montesa for West Virginia. It was the first time all season for Montesa in which he threw at least 5 innings and didn't allow a single run. Manages to work around the 4 walks, strikes out 6, hands it over to the bullpen, and then the bullpen gives you 3 2/3 scoreless. The offense for West Virginia gets on base 22 times, 14 hits, 8 walks on the day. 9 different hitters hit safely in this one. 4 different hitters come through in multi-hit games. Armani Guzman, Gavin Kelly, Matthew Graveline, Matt Einick all come through in multi-hit games. Gavin Kelly leads the way, goes 3 for 4, hits the big 3-run home run in the 6th to put West Virginia up 5-0. That was a big moment in the game because we saw in Troy's previous game their ability to climb back into a game that they were seemingly out of. So for them to extend that 2-0 lead to 5-0 was big in taking pressure off the bullpen at that point. And then they just cruised the rest of the way. Outside of the Gavin Kelly home run, you only get 2 other extra base hits out of the lineup, but you do get the 8 walks, which kind of proves the point that I've been making about West Virginia throughout the tournament, is that this is a team that is just going to consistently battle at the plate. They're super disciplined. They're going to take their walks. They're going to put the ball in play. They're going to create chaos on the bases. And then they're just going to run into that big hit, that's what they did today. And they were just too much for Troy. Shout out to Troy, just an electric run throughout the tournament. Happy they were able to get that win against Ole Miss. Excited to see where this program goes. As for West Virginia, they get a rematch against North Carolina on Wednesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Central Time. They're going to have to beat North Carolina twice, but at the same time, this West Virginia team has looked really solid throughout the World Series thus far. I think there's definitely a world in which they force a second game against North Carolina for a trip to the final on the line. As for this game against Georgia and Texas, the Bulldogs beat the Longhorns 2-0. What I find interesting about Georgia's now 2 wins over Texas is the fact that coming into Omaha, the narrative around Georgia was, if you're going to beat this Georgia team, it's going to be because the long ball was taken away from them. As it stands right now, I believe Georgia has the 3rd most home runs all time in a single season. But Charles Schwab Field is an entirely different run scoring environment than Foley Field is in Athens. So the narrative was, if they're not able to hit the home run ball like they do at home, they might be in trouble here in Omaha. However, Georgia has just kind of disproved that theory with the way that they've handled Texas. Coming into Omaha, Texas was the best lineup, not named Georgia. And in their 2 games against Georgia, they score a total of 1 run. You get the complete game 15 strikeout performance from Joey Volchko in the opener, and then Dylan Vigneault and Justin Bird combined for a shutout here in this elimination game. Yes, this Georgia offense is as good as anybody, but I think this win over Texas proved that this Georgia pitching staff is just as vital to Georgia's success as the bats have been. The Bulldogs, they don't necessarily really come up with a big hit in this game against Texas. You do get that big clutch hit from Trey Phelps in the 5th inning with 2 outs to put the first run on the board. And then the second run in the 7th inning was more so a series of just the ball kind of rolling Georgia's way. You get that diving catch from Darian Pendergrass in center field, which is overturned as a no catch, which in my opinion could have gone either way. You get that Trey Phelps single that just finds a hole against the shift. And then obviously you get the wacky sacrifice pop fly in shallow left field, which should have been an out at the plate if Carson Tinney can get that tag down. But the runner at third shouldn't have even been able to tag anyway if Adrian Rodriguez and Anthony Pack Jr., if they don't bump each other there in left field. It was just kind of a series of things that went Georgia's way in that inning. So there necessarily was never the big hit for Georgia in this game. But what was big for Georgia was the pitching. Dylan Vigneault, 4 innings scoreless, just 2 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. And then Justin Bird comes in for 5 innings, ties his career high in innings in an outing. Goes scoreless, just 2 hits, 1 walk, just 3 base runners across 5 innings, the 4 strikeouts. Goes toe-to-toe with Texas's best, Sam Cozart, who also pitched excellent on the other side. Luke Harrison was excellent out the gates for Texas. I believe he had a career high in strikeouts. But Georgia just outpitches Texas on a night that the ball wasn't flying for Georgia, which just proves the point that this Bulldogs team can win in more ways than just out-homering you. With that being said, I still feel pretty good about this Georgia team despite the fact that they have to beat Oklahoma twice. For Georgia, they only lost 2 games to a single team once all year. They lost 2 out of 3 to Florida in a regular season series earlier in the year. Other than that, there is no other team that has beaten Georgia twice this year. Is Oklahoma still the favorite because of how well they've been playing, because they have picked up a win against Georgia? Probably so. But if there's one team I had to pick to go 2-0 against Oklahoma to advance to the final, it would be Georgia. If they can piece together another solid pitching performance and get the bats hot in that first game, then you probably get Joey Volchko going in the second game. Who knows what happens from there. Super excited to see if Georgia can slow down this Oklahoma team that is red hot right now, or if Oklahoma just continues rolling. We'll get our answers Wednesday night, 7 p.m.